Okay, so week 2 update. Got the surgery last Tuesday. Today is Thursday, so I'm, a week and 2 days post surgery, and I'm probably 3 weeks post injury. So, tore my distal bicep completely in jiu-jitsu. Yeah, probably about 3 weeks ago. Kind of went through the whole process to see the orthopedist, get the MRI, determine what it was, and then schedule surgery. So surgery happened last Tuesday. Today is a week and 2 days since then, and I want to give an update on where I'm at. So got the big kind of wrap off yesterday. So I had that for the first week and a day. It was tough because you've got your arm in a fixed kind of position, really about 90 degrees. There was like a firm plastic kind of channel in the back, and then a lot of gauze and bandage over kind of the incision, obviously, but really your entire arm. And so that was tough. I mean, that was tough for showering. That was tough for sleeping. So the first night was really, really hard. Had to keep kind of my entire body at a 45-degree angle because of the anesthesia and some of the kind of medication that with the nerve block and everything they put in the incision site kind of needed to be up. So I think it would drain versus draining upwards into, I don't know, my heart, head, whatever. So first night was tough, and then it got progressively easier. It was still a pain in the ass having a big, wrap. So really, really relieving to get that off. There was a lot of, to me, reframing of success and wins in the first week. There has been so far, and that continues to happen. So tying your shoes is tough. I had to have some help tie my shoes, which is humbling, but a really kind of gracious act. Putting on deodorant was tough. You could do it on this side, but this side was tough. You got a fixed thing in here. Those little things, really just bending down. Putting on a shirt is still really, really difficult because I'll get to it in a second, but this doesn't really bend much further than that. And so it certainly didn't when it had the big wrap on it. So wearing a hoodie, kind of wearing a tank top for the first week because I had a big armhole. That was kind of my move. And then I progressed into shirts where I could kind of just stretch out the armhole and get it around the big wrap. And so now this is off, or now that's off. I'll show the incision site here in a second, but the first week was tough. I did manage to get some workouts in. I did some garage workouts. I was doing would hold a like 45-pound weight and just do lunges, kind of forward and reverse lunges. I would do squats with the same, either with a 53-pound kettlebell or the weight. I was really trying not to do anything explosive or jarring. So I had this thing in a sling. I did kettlebells a few times, but that felt a little unsafe, honestly. So I stopped doing those. And then I would do a bunch of sit-ups. I mean, that's really all I could do. So just kind of got down, yoga mat, and just did sit-ups to failure for a bunch of different sets. So managed to do that. One of the things I didn't want to do was work up too much of a sweat because this thing was so wrapped that I didn't want to create a condition where it got sweaty and infected, and it did start to get a little itchy the last 2 days. So it came off in an amazing time because it was just literally getting really itchy, and I was just kind of pressing the outside of the bandage to find some relief. So pain has been manageable. It really hasn't been that bad. I've taken 2 500 milligrams of aspirin, acetaminophen, twice a day about, and some days I just skip that or do once a day because it really hasn't been bad. Sometimes towards the end of the night I'll take that to kind of help sleep or help kind of some of the soreness die down so I can get a better night's sleep. So all of that hasn't been too bad. I'm getting a lot more mobility, which has been great. So what they did yesterday, they cut the bandage off. they removed that big channel, and I'll show the incision site. So that's that. If I show it from the side, it's like really raised, so kind of ugly. Surgeon didn't say it was alarming, said it was totally perfectly normal, and that if it did raise up more, I could go in and have them either kind of drain it or address it somehow. So wish it didn't look like that, but it is what it is, so I'm keeping an eye on that. He said if I wanted to, I can keep it covered with a bandage. So I'm mostly letting it kind of breathe, but I'm going to go out this weekend. I will cover it with a bandage just to kind of keep it clean and free from junk. So that's that. So when he described what happened, you know, the tendon severed completely in half, and so they went into the forearm. It severed again in jiu-jitsu and then retracted up into my bicep, as did my muscle. So he had to, you know, cut here and then go fish up underneath for the retracted tendon. And what they had to do, they couldn't just sew it back on as it was, so they had to kind of cut the place where it connected to the bone down here, and then cut, you know, a tiny bit up from the tendon that had ruptured to just get a kind of a really clean connection. So, which all that resulted in the tendon now being a little bit shorter than it was before the rupture. So that is, by his explanation, is what's contributing to me not being able to really stretch this out much further than this, which makes sense. And so what will happen is the muscle, the bicep, will lengthen through time, through PT, through exercises to compensate for the distance of that now shortened tendon. So hopeful explanation for me. A little weird to think about that happening inside my arm, but it also feels exactly like that when I think about it, because as I try to extend it, it hurts. You know, it hurts, and it hurts in such a way that it feels like there is something inside my bicep that is pulling and elongating, because that's exactly what's happening. So I do have kind of no cast right now, but they gave me this. So I've got this big brace. It's locked here, and I can kind of take it on and off. His guidance was to wear it in public for sure. I think it's mostly as protection, and honestly, you'll probably want to, because my arm just being open feels really, really vulnerable. It feels, you know, I could fall, someone could kind of grab something, a number of things could happen. It could get caught in something and extend out and, you know, re-rupture that tendon, or something awful could happen. So I've been wearing this brace, which is a pain, but honestly is much better than the wrap. So you can kind of adjust it and tighten these pieces here, and away you go. So brace has been fine. It's super, super clunky, gets a lot of attention. I feel bionic, but it doesn't let me go, and I have it set to kind of this angle here. So it doesn't let me go beyond that, and honestly there's a real kind of emotional safety to feeling locked in here. So this is how I'm gonna roll for a while. PT starts week after next. I'm traveling this coming week, so we'll see how it works on a plane. But this is kind of just cataloging week 2. I feel so much better than week 1. To talk about kind of the mental health and routine component of it, I mean, the truth is, this happened during physical activity. This happens to people during physical activity. And if it's happening during physical activity, it's very likely that you're participating regularly in some kind of athletic event. You're training, you're doing sports, you're doing something that you've likely done for a really long time. And if you've done it for a really long time, it's become a part of your identity and a core part of your community. So the biggest impact in the last week, obviously the physical component, not being able to work out, not being able to do the same things, being really, really limited relative to kind of the life I've been living, has been tough to manage. But the physical component I can deal with. The pain I can deal with. The new PT or the new normal, getting back to health, it's like I can get my head around this is what I do now, and this is the new project I'm working on. This will be kind of the new PR, and I'll be back to strong. And my new goal is to push through, get back to where stronger than I was. That feels like a goal, and I can go do that. What's been really hard is the lack of community. So it's like, I can't go to jujitsu, I can't go to work out, CrossFit. I'm not running, I'm not out in the world in the way that I was. And that part is hard because if you're doing those things regularly, you're participating in these communities pretty much all the time. You're then integrated with these people who are now your friends, now your family, so forth. So I'm making a really conscious effort to go stop by those gyms and just be there. And I can do a little bit of workouts. I can do some squats like with a kind of safety bar. But honestly, I'm mostly going just to see the people and to maintain a touch point of community, because I think the biggest impact for this, for athletes or people who regularly train, will not be the physical component. I think we're used to managing load and managing some stress on our bodies. The thing we're probably not used to is being isolated. So I would encourage anybody who has this, who trains regularly, to make a real effort, make more of an effort than you ever have, to be around the people you were around before. Because whether you know it or not, those people are kind of your bedrock, your foundation in a lot of ways of your self-esteem, your identity, your cultural kind of touch points, your community, and your, really your emotional health. So I'm making a continued and consistent intentional effort to stay connected. Even if I can't participate physically, I can be there with those people and just be around, because they want to see you and you need to see them more than you think you do. So I encourage anybody who has this, the physical piece is what it is. I'm going to get through that part, but you have to stay connected, and you have to make more of an effort than you think you need to stay connected, and don't neglect how much you need community. So I'll be back next week with another update, and hopefully a lot of